Testing, testing. There we go. There we go. Probably help if I had this thing on. There we go. All right, it's 4:35. We'll get rolling here. One of these days we'll have to bring you all to get all in. All right, Brian, looks like Brian's going on right now. So on the Skype call. So let's go ahead and have a word of prayer, and then we'll dive into session 4. So, Lord, we thank you so much for this afternoon, Lord, and thank you for the opportunity to get together to learn more about you, learn about our gifts, and learn about how we project these to others. And we want to take this time and opportunity to pray for those who aren't able to be here with us today. Lord, keep them safe. Go forth. Lord, we ask that you be with us as we dive into 1 Corinthians 13 a bit, but more deeper. Spiritual gift and how give it to others. All right, let's go to page 100. Session 4, maybe hit a little session 5 today. I haven't decided yet. I'll know here when I start rolling and see how we all get through it together. So running into page 100. So your homework was to read 1 Corinthians chapter 13. I'm sure everybody did it. That's okay. Your nervous laugh tells me otherwise, but I'm all right with that. I'm just teasing. So what we'll do here is someone would like to turn to 1 Corinthians 13 and read the chapter. And then what we'll do is we'll dive into page 100. As someone's looking that up, I just kind of want to touch base. You know, our main passages has been 1 Corinthians. That's been our main topic of conversation throughout the spiritual gift program. So we're diving into a situation where we've been given the information on how that our spiritual gifts work and what spiritual gifts are available and what spiritual gifts we've been given. Okay? Now we're diving into a situation where it says we can have all the information, we can have all the knowledge. Don't do one thing it's worth. Anybody have 1 Corinthians 13? Tracer's got it? That's all right. We can do doths and these and all that sort of thing. So 1 Corinthians 13. Okay, so thank you, Trace. What we're looking at here is we're going to focus in on a couple of quick little subjects from 1 Corinthians 13. Okay, so the fill in the blank on that page 100 is Paul talks about love as the way we are to serve each other. Because if you look at the following three, in the first three, and we can follow along there in page 100, there's a spiritual gift at the top. It says, if I speak in the tongues, remember, tongues is a spiritual gift, of men and angels, but not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. Spiritual gift, lacking love, no impact. Keep going down through the verses. If I have the gift of prophecies, can fathom the mysteries of wisdom, knowledge, and have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. Again, listed 4 spiritual gifts, no love, no impact. If I give all I possess to the poor, voluntary poverty, which could be spiritual gift, and surrender my body to the flames, which is martyrdom, but have not love, I have nothing. So it's important that these people are using their spiritual gift, but the important part of the following is, do not reflect who God, whoops, wrong direction. That's helpful if I do it this way. Do not reflect who God is, and then because if we do not reflect who God is, we do not have a kingdom impact. So on top of page 101, that's where kingdom comes into play. I can think of multiple examples, and I'm going to put my hand in front of everybody here because I don't want to get hit by lightning. But I have served in some type of ministry, and there was no love in it at all. Okay? We're going to dive into deeper about obedience, and we'll dive into a little bit of a deeper of, am I serving because I want to, or am I serving because there's an obligation? I have served an obligation. I can tell you one thing, it crashed and burned pretty heavily. And then sometimes you serve an obligation, whether it's in a church, community, workplace, and it should have went out in flames, and by the grace of God, it didn't. Okay? Because God wanted to use that opportunity to, still lift people up and teach you a lesson. Well, you being me. Okay? So as we so it's really all about how our attitude is in regards to what and when and how we serve. Kind of love we're to express here is agape love, selfless kind of love that seeks the best interest of others. As I read a description, which I'll read here on the bottom of page 101, as I read a description of the love we are to have, think about how it's demonstrated in the ways we serve. So remember, according to Paul, when he writes in 1 Corinthians, love is patient, kind, not envious, not boastful, not proud, not rude, not self-seeking, not easily angered, not keeping records of wrongs, not delighting in evil, rejoicing with the truth, protecting, always trusting, always hoping, always persevering, and never failing. That's the purpose, one of the main purposes of how our attitude in what we serve reflects in others, or excuse me, how we define ourselves to others as we serve. Because if we do not have love, we do not reflect what God is, and we do not have the impact for the kingdom. Go to page 102. And we'll look at the top of the difference between servanthood, and I never can pronounce this. I've been doing this process. There's a couple of words that always trip me up. This is one of them. I don't know why. I can never pronounce the word servility. Yay. Servanthood is serving with love. Servility is serving without love. So, as we look at these type of differences, we look at the top of 102, servanthood in letter A serves out of obedience. Servanthood, letter A, serves out of obedience. It says, I want to serve God. Servility serves out of obligation. It says, I have. Servanthood A serves out of obedience. Servility in letter A is obligation. Okay? There are times in our lives that we want to do things for people. Okay? Most everybody has the ability for compassion, whether it's a spouse or a child or a family member or somebody in our community, and that you've served this individual with love, with compassion. Charity is the King James Version word that Trace uses. Charity doesn't mean money, right? Charity means time, effort. Okay? And there's times in our lives that we've had to serve because we have to. Because you can serve with a really crappy attitude. A really crappy attitude. Okay? And there's times that maybe we're not all there. Go ahead, Russ, make your joke. I'm here. Sometimes we serve and we're not all right. We're maybe half into it, maybe. Or we wake up and we're like, yep, I got to go serve today because X, Y, Z. Nobody else can do it. Or nobody can do it better than I can. Session 2 and 3 kids paying attention. So so really in reality, our attitude drives. Now, do we expect when we wake up in the morning, yay, we're going to serve today? No. Don't. Some people do. You might know of people who do that. They're ready to go whenever. They're out the door. They're ready to roll. Okay? They're the cheerleaders of the group. Got the personality. They're extroverts. They're ready to roll. Okay? But if we go in with an attitude in our heart that we're here to serve, to please God, edify others, help others, we're making a difference for the kingdom. Servanthood is motivated what God sees. It serves an audience of one, that being Christ. Servility is motivated by what others see. It serves to please others. That's letter B. Letter C. Servanthood has the attitude of whatever it takes. Goes beyond expectations. C. Servility has, it's not my job, does the minimum. It's like me in algebra class. Okay? D. Results are God glorifying, directs attention to God, humbly represents Christ, it reflects Christ. Self-seeking is drawing attention to self, pridefully promoting self. In Matthew 5:16, Jesus makes a very interesting statement. Paraphrasing, let your light shine before men that they may see your good deeds and praise and glorify your Father in heaven. Christ, Jesus, in our Christian walk, in our Christ-following walk, is not asking us to be secret servants. Now, there are people, as we've learned about our spiritual gifts, there's some behind-the-scenes items that we do. There's some people don't really actively seek edification, for lack of a better term. Their part is we know that we're serving God with love, but we don't need the attention of being the face. Okay, that's kind of not what it's saying. That's not what a secret servant is. There are people who do things anonymously. There are people who do things quietly behind the scenes. What Christ is calling us in Matthew chapter 5 to do is saying, look, be the light. It's not you that we're looking at. It's the love of Christ that you're presenting through you. Just help me out, Mr. Electrician. You're the conductor, maybe? The current passing through? Electrician here? Come on. I think that's kind of where you're just being used as a conduit. That's the word I'm looking for. I'll get there somewhere. The conduit. We are, Also, visible act of service done in love makes that kingdom difference. In John 13:35, by this all men will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. I've seen many, many different types of ministries that are just absolutely fantastic. And it's people who are completely different, and some people don't even get along. But they've put their personal differences aside, personal viewpoints aside, used each other's spiritual gifts to the maximum of their ability, and absolutely rocked it out. Whether it's a church ministry, whether it's a community ministry, it's amazing what people can do when push comes to shove. Sometimes we sit and we say, this is going to be a great opportunity for a couple of people to get together that may have some strength, and it may not work out. But I always go back to the thought process that there are people out there who are always going to look at you to fail. Okay? What I'm challenging you to do is, if you know it is spiritually led, if you know that God has provided you the talents and the time, that's just one of the fears that people will place in your mind. We really, and what we have to think about is dig deeper is maybe because they're not thinking you can do it, maybe that's who Christ wants to spread the light through to them, excuse me. Serving with servanthood, obedience. will not be known by our spiritual gifts or by the things to do, but by the love we have for one another. So, what does love have to do with serving? Page bottom of 103. Does love have to do with serving? Eric, I gave you the answer. Everything. D, all the above. D, all the above. Any questions or any thoughts so far? All right. Let's go to 105. 105 in the network book. Talk a little bit about servanthood and what it means from a personal standpoint. So it talks about forming a group, but we're not going to need to do that. What I'd like for this is going to be an individual exercise we'll all bring together. So page 105 talks about what I'd like for you to do is cross out direction number 1, but on number 2 it says, think about one aspect of servanthood, serving with love, that you would like to concentrate on. And then identifying a practical step that you would like to take towards that goal. So, process take more than about 3 to 5 minutes. You've been given a spiritual gift. You've been given the abilities that Christ has bestowed upon you. You have looked about what other people think about us. And so what I'd like to do is just take this opportunity, like 3 to 5 minutes here, to think about where's one place that I feel like where I could minister. Remember, this is a community base, so church, workplace, families, places. And then what you think would be practical to gain towards greater service. I have till 5. Let's go in at 5. Wrap up here in about a minute or so. Brian, Liddy, you doing okay? I'll go. I picked on you guys last week first. I'll get you guys last. How's that? Switch it up on you. All right, it's about straight up 4:59 and 30 seconds, so we're going to get rolling. We'll round up. Tracer, what's one aspect of servanthood you'd like to concentrate on? Yep. Okay. Tracer wants to keep it real. So one of the other question would be is what type of step can you take forward for that servanthood? Hey, step. Thanks, Trace. Sorry to be picked on you first, but my left. Russ? Okay. Works. Russ is looking for the faith angle. Prayer. And that you pretty much told your step on what you were going to do there by saying becoming more focused towards reaching it. So how would be a practical way to be that step? Okay. Daily interactions. Practical ways, right? So far, so good. Tim. Hmm? Sure. Right. Sure. Mm-hmm. A life outside this church. Do you have a life outside of this church? Okay. So can I give you a couple of spoiler alert tips, Kim? Number one, it's okay. Because there's days you probably walk into your classroom and you're like, this isn't good. Or this isn't going to be what it needs to be. It happens. It's okay. Real life, it happens, especially when it's a Sunday situation. Okay? Here's the other kicker, too. You brought up a very good point, whether you unwillingly knew it or not, that you walked in. Kim brought up a very excellent point. She's like, some of these gifts I'm still not sure about. I gave you two words. Because there are times that I've had done this study. I think my first time I did a study was 15 years ago. There's still a gift or two that I don't not really even sure. Okay? And I've been doing this for a while. It's okay. All right, you'll either learn to understand it, or you're sometimes like me struggle with it still. It's okay. You don't have to have all the answers on this. There's no right or wrong answers. I said that. I think I said that on week 1. There are no right or wrong answers. Okay, so yeah, it's okay. So for those of you who, Kim, thank you for bringing that point out that everybody else can learn. Jesse. God glorifying results? Okay. Their employees. Done. Eric, got to. Sorry. Looking to be a street. Okay. No. Stepping out in your faith, God glorifying, talking to the people that you know that Christ loves in you. Olivia, you got the same thing. That's fine. Hey, Dave's taking notes. It's okay. Mm-hmm. That's fine. As long as you know it, that's what matters. It's a very practical step. The answers are in the Word of God, obviously, as a perfect place to start. And sometimes we all struggle with that daily interaction that we need. Cody, I want to call your brother's name. It's okay. It probably doesn't happen. It happens all the time. Sorry, buddy. Okay. Okay. Cody's looking for some friendships. You'll see Cody right there. Dave? Brian, you're next. You're after Dave, by the way. I told Brian he was next after you, so he's aware. No, because I couldn't even think out of the I couldn't even think of what word I was looking for. That's right. Mm-hmm. That's yeah. Wouldn't disagree at all. Half the part is finding people. Mm-hmm. Part of me never wants to live in if and Cindy's not watching this, I'm safe. Part of me never wants to live in a place that doesn't have all four seasons. Sometimes took a walk or was able to be outside the last. People in Florida don't get that, right? You know, Cindy and I have friends in Hawaii. They're stationed out in Hawaii. They got paradise 364 days a year, right? It's beautiful. You can go outside anytime they want. You know, here we're sitting on 16 inches of snow one week, and then 2 weeks later it's 50 degrees and everyone's out walking their dogs. I think there's something to be said about, you know, David mentioned being outside or walking around. You know, Cindy took walks like every day at work this week because they've been really slow. Now, why is this important? Because you kind of have a situation of when we're sitting in here and we're having these conversations about when, you know, what we can do from a servant standpoint. You know, cooped up in our house way too long. Even without a pandemic, winters can seem pretty long. And to have the opportunity of a promise of spring and being able to have outside activities again, for us is a pretty big deal. The renewal time, right. I'm gonna give a spoiler alert. This time we got a text from our friends in Hawaii. She sent a text to Cindy. They were college roommates. Just want to let you know something. I found on my phone that you were here 1 year ago today. I was like Saturday. Because I just want to let you know, she said for the last 3.5 weeks, it has rained every day for 8 hours. She says there are places, there are 24 inches of rain in some of the islands that you would have been on. That's been a really bad vacation. But no, it's the idea of the renewal part. So even though people live in paradise all the time, it still rains on their parade. So we have an opportunity again. Spring does have this ability to make you feel a little bit more renovated, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Brian, Lydia, you're up. Okay. All right, Lydia. Thank you, guys. All right. So now we figured out the difference between servanthood and servility. Turn to page 106. Talked about attitude. I talked a little bit about this last Sunday in the message. Most of you wiped that from your mind. I don't know. But we talked a little bit about personality and temperament. Okay, so here we go. 3 truths in the middle of 106 should sound familiar. They're like fill in the blanks, aren't they? It's repetition. We know about repetition. If we're being told the same thing over and over and over, it might be a reason why. So as we look at our as we look at our servant profile using our spiritual gifts, here are some 3 truths. Truths. Number 1, personal style is God-given. Spiritual gifts. Number 2, 106, there is no right or wrong personal styles. Personal styles are just different. So, again, there are no right or wrong spiritual gifts. Spiritual gifts are just different. Here's the difference. Personal style answers the how question. On the blank is how. How can I best serve? Psalm 139, 13 through 16 says, "You have created my inmost being. You've knit me in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them come to be." Just like spiritual gift, God has given you a unique use of a personal style. I mentioned before last Sunday, some people who are extroverts, some people are introverts, and I'm not going to use the same joke I used last week. Difficult to do this every week. I feel for Dave because you can't use the same joke every other week. That's true. But the idea is there, how you remember, how you deliver with your attitude and your spiritual gifts. Crucial to servanthood. So, we're going to learn what our personal styles are. We're going to turn to page 107. This is an individual activity. No cheating, Eric Smith. So let's move to page 107. You're going to utilize also pages 108 and 109. So we're going to do this in a couple of steps. It won't take you long to do. So, directions say read each statement and circle the number along continuum that best describes what you would prefer to do. Do a strong preference, circle 1 or 5 if it's moderate, 2 or 4. Remember, there are no right or wrong responses. Do not answer according to what you feel is expected by a spouse, family member, church leader, and or employer. Select your behavior or perspective that would come most naturally to you if there were no restrictions, consequences for your personal expression. So, the first on, 108 and 109 take about, question, let's take about 3 minutes, and we'll go through those, answer both questions. And if you want to go ahead, on page 107, number 4, go to number 11, and you play a little bit of geometry. We've got lines and graphs. So basically what it is just go ahead and fill out the questions. You'll get your total on E, and then a total on O, and then a little bit of, help me out here, geometry. Are you math, Dave? Is it plot? Is it plot? Is it plot? Was it plot? When you do line graphs, it's plotting? Plotting. Thank you. You think living with a geometry teacher, as long as I did, I would have picked up some things. That wasn't happening. All right, so again, 108, 109, E and O. I'll catch you in about 2.5, 3 minutes. One minute. Brian, Lydia, are you good on your end? Okay, so once you get your E and your O, you put your plot number where your number falls into place, whether it's, and it goes from the top, 7 to 35 is the O scale. That's what I would call the vertical, I believe. And then the horizontal goes left to right, 7 to 35. So place a dot in a reasonable part of that square. Eric, I'm assuming you're a 21, you're right in the middle, right? I figured. I've got more. I got 15 on them thinking Eric's probably the one's going to be in the middle, which is fine, which is great. And then what you do is you take a little, then you need to do your line plot. So draw one line from the top down through that one plot, and then one from across. So for instance, if I was an E14 and an O28, I'd find myself in the middle of the task structured. Far from mine. Way. Okay. All right, let's share again. Dave, where'd you end up? You remember when you did it last time? Wasn't there. So, okay, you're consistent. Cody, task structured. Olivia, same. Okay, draw your line from one end to the other. Yeah, she's doing, there you go, just like that. He's even got like a ruler. Sorry about that. I apologize for not checking in on you on your side of things. So, graph, yeah, graph. We got some task structured people over here. Dave, people what? You're people unstructured. Okay. Eric, task unstructured. Okay. Jesse? People structured. Okay. So you're thinking about these. Think about, obviously, the person is saying this, Kim. He's just people. Let's see. Yeah, that's correct. That's, yeah. So you've got half and half. You're like the cream, you know, there, the half and half, right? Russ? Task unstructured. Tracer? Task structured. For a guy who does logistics for a living. That sound about right? Yeah, I'd agree with that. Brian, Lydia? Okay. Task unstructured. Medical individuals, right? I'm not saying that your job defines you, but if you think about what people do, really, and knowing their personality really helps you kind of understand this task a little bit more. Kim, while she thinks she's a 50%, as a kindergarten teacher, she has to be structured, and we all know what happens when you get into the classroom with a bunch of 5-year-olds. You got to be unstructured. It's called multi-talented. I'm not saying you're all multi-talented. I'm not just, anyway, Kim, you're multi-talented. I am so far people unstructured, you have no idea. I think I was almost to that corner at one point. Bottom, southwest corner. I should have been in the basement for the tornado. All right, bottom of page 11. Your personal style, you have determined it to be tasker people, unstructured or structured. So I would say, Kim, you are people unstructured, structured. Yeah. You are not the first person to hit one of them. Seen that happen couple other times. And normally, if it's going to fall in that. And Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. If you remember, it's really going to fall in that structured, unstructured. It's not very often you see someone who is people, structured, unstructured, or task from that standpoint. That might be a little bit confusing. I'm sorry. But the opposite of what you are, Kim, is what you normally don't see. Someone hits the bullseye, that's it. We need to take her dart throwing. Be in good shape. All right, so now we've got that. We're gonna slide into session 5. And we're gonna slide into session 5 over the next 10 minutes or so, and then we'll close here at about 5:35. I think we'll be able to be done, maybe even before. But I kind of wanted to, where actually session 4 ends, is finding out where the people structured and your task, where your task unstructured, people structured, task unstructured, people situations lie. It doesn't make any sense to stop there. So we're going to turn to page 114 here. We're going to talk briefly about the personal style description. Okay? Look at the top of page 114. Personal style indicates the way you prefer to relate to people and the world around you. Remember, there are no right or wrong personal styles. There's just difference. Trace brought up a very good point. He wants to learn. He wants to be real, and he isn't real, which we all know. Trace. We know where Trace comes into play. We know how Trace stands. But we use our personal real style, not a fake one. Can't buy your personal style off the rack at Amazon. Okay? Because the next three are usually huge. If you serve in a way that is not consistent with your personal style, some things here that can impede your work for the kingdom. Relationships become inauthentic. You don't feel like doing anything from a motivation standpoint. Start serving in servility, not servanthood. And if you try to be somebody you're not going to be, probably aren't going to last long. It's called burnout stage. Okay? So the key to your personal style is how you are energized and how you are organized. So what makes you tick and how do you put it together? Simply put, that's what it is. Energizer Bunny he needs batteries. Energizer Bunny without batteries is what? Stuffed rabbit. Not going anywhere. Okay? So let's look at the energized. So you know your personal style, which we've done on page 111. As we look at the personal style, whether you're task-oriented or people-oriented, how you energize is the way that how you receive and focus your emotional energy, and it indicates how you prefer to interact with people and tasks. So, task-oriented people are energized by doing things, accomplishing things, working with people who share commitment to tasks. We ask task-oriented people to be someone who is going out and shaking people's hands, or asking task-oriented people to potentially provide some type of extrovert, overly friendly towards people. I'm not saying that task-oriented people aren't unfriendly. It's not their natural environment. Okay? So, task-oriented people like to do checklists in most cases. And when they feel like they've done a task and it's been accomplished, they feel pretty good about themselves. They believe they're being able to serve that way. People-oriented people are energized by people that are interpersonal, how they interact with people, and work with people in a team setting, and can feel awkward when handling a lot of tasks. I'm going to tell this one on myself. In my job, I have a legal pad. About 2 pages right now of things I have to do. I am people unstructured. You know why I have a list? If I don't write it down, I'll forget it. You know what that means? I don't get anything done. Because you just gave me a bunch of tasks that I'm looking at. I don't even know where to start. What happens is I'll go do things, and then maybe about Thursday or Friday, I'll look down at my list and say, hey, I got this one done. Hey, I got this one done. I got this one done. Worst thing can happen to me is it gives me a list. Helps me keep me organized. I'm not real good at lists. When we ate a little bit differently at the house, Cindy would give me the grocery list. More ice cream than broccoli. They came home. Then Heath to the grocery store where he went down every aisle. Cucumbers became cookies. You missed half the list, but you got a lot of the other stuff. Just how it rolls. Okay? So look at the task. So if you look at yourself as you're a task, Tracer, you said you're a task guy, right? For the most part. You know, does that sound like something that, you know, feel when you feel like you tick when you are organized like that? So if you had to drive a truck and they said it's full, just have it empty when you leave, and you didn't have a route, probably would just do it. It'd be hard though, right? If Tracer doesn't have a route to deliver items, well, then you get some really cool stuff, right? Where this package goes. I don't know if I got to go to Springfield or I've got to go down to Cincinnati. I don't know. Okay, so task, people. How are those things are determined. Both value, this is very key on 15. In fact, if you could star and square this, circle it, highlight it, whatever you need to do. Both value developing relationship and meeting goals. All right, page 116. How are we organized? Reflects how you prefer to organize your world. Pretty much a list of items right there for you. Unstructured puts everything in piles. That's me. I'll pick on myself. I don't care. Talk to Cindy about the basement. My fault. I'm okay with that. Are less concerned about being precise. Prefer lots of options and flexibility. Yes, Heath Forkey's book here. Prefer a variety of activities. Are comfortable in undefined situation and like spontaneous relationships. Okay. Structured peoples puts everything in files, plans and brings order to their lives, enjoys stable, consistent relationships, makes decisions and seek closures, or detailed, like things that are clearly defined. We're going to pause real quick here. About 5 more minutes here, just to let you know. Kim has said that she is mixed up. So Kim, I'm not going to pick on you. I'm flexible. Right. So there's probably 2 or 3 items here on the unstructured things that you like, and there's probably 2 or 3 things that's in the structure that you like. That works. You have piles and files. It rhymes. Exactly. Eventually they get there. You do. So let's bring up this point. We've talked about interdependence. Okay, now that we know our spiritual gifts, now we have an idea of what our personal style is. We've all just shared that around the room or online. Now we're in a scenario where we've heard from everybody. Can you start seeing maybe some examples in whether it's in your community or here or other places where maybe if you're people unstructured, how well you worked with task structure? How many people work with, people structured than task unstructured? You see how we're interdependent upon how our differences occur? Okay, good answer, Trace. Thank you. All right, so that's kind of important. I'm going to leave you this one thought, and it's the answer for the fill-in on the other, on 116. And this is going to sound very teacher-like, and I apologize to all the teachers in the room. But the fill in the blank on the page 116 says personal style does explain our behavior, but does not excuse it. Okay? You may be unstructured or structured, but that does not excuse you from meeting deadlines or fulfilling responsibility or using our attitude towards others. I can't do that because I'm unstructured is not the right answer. That's where interdependence comes in. Okay? There's no right or wrong answer. Sure. Yeah, sure. Sure. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Mhm. And that's the this is a bad example, and one person's not here to defend herself. I'm not going to ask Levi to do something I would expect Audrey to do. They're both kids. And they're both under 18. They classify as children. But there's things I'm not going to ask Levi to do that, hey, Brian, I need to borrow Levi to come and help me with the wheelbarrow thing. That's not going to work. Audrey can help. Maybe a couple little things. Maybe he can help me pick up sticks. He loves to pick up sticks in the yard. I think. Bill, he did last. It's really where it comes down to as well. What from a maturity level, what are we going to ask someone to do? Right. I understand. There's things that we may ask someone who's maybe a little more spiritual mature to do something, potentially. But maybe you bring someone along with you who you want someone to grow in their maturity. It's a teaching moment. Rubbing off, it's the old, I really have to be a leader thing. I'm in management. Hard. And then it's like, because what you decide affects others, because that's how it rolls. But the hard part is, I'm asking somebody, there's one person at the credit union that young, 20, such a go-getter, and it's easy to flow to her. And hey, Haley, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? What am I doing? I'm piling everything on Haley, and the other couple tellers are sitting there doing crossword puzzles, and you can't do that. If that's the case, because in a perfect world, I give her all the tasks done because she's good. But the maturity level, like you had mentioned, is when you bring someone along with you that you can grow with them. That's why I have to give tasks to other people. And Haley's like, I can help that individual run into an issue with that task. That's where the maturity kicks in. It's own self. It's on. So working on the job training, OJT. All right. So that's the end of page 116. So we are going to, I want you to read 117 as homework. And what we're going to do here is on 117, I want you to look about what your personal style was, and it kind of just gives you ideas of where you tend to be and your opportunities could be. So what I would like for you to consider as your homework is, when you look at the bottom of serving opportunities with your personal style and your gifts, I would like for you to do is to start thinking about some possibilities of ministry, whether it's in your church here, whether it's in your community or your workplace. And then we can bring those together to finish up next week. Give us a little bit of a kickstart in getting that completed. Okay. Next week, we'll be done probably in the same amount of time. kept you 5 minutes over. Done by 5:45 next week. Okay. Any questions or any other discussion you'd like to bring up? Anything else? Anything else for the good of the group? Housekeeping. Next week, 4:30 here. Into 5, the rest of 6. We'll get through rest of 5 and through 6. And then we'll send you on your merry way, I guess. I appreciate every one of you coming out and being part of the group.